The Galactic Confederation's massive flagship broke through Earth's cloudy atmosphere in 2089, landing on the specially constructed platform in New Geneva. Admiral Zorax, a towering reptilian figure with iridescent scales and six-fingered hands, emerged flanked by warriors whose exoskeletons gleamed with embedded technology. They're visibly surprised and secretly contemptuous to find that humans, standing a full head shorter and with fragile-looking bodies, have somehow survived and thrived on their war-torn planet. Dr. Elena Reyes adjusted her formal uniform as she stood among Earth's delegation. At 45, her dark hair streaked with premature gray from years in weapons research labs, she had the eyes of someone who had seen too much during the resource wars. Next to her, General Santos maintained perfect military posture, his ceremonial sword more than just decoration. He had used it in the Jakarta campaign where Reyes had earned her scars. "We welcome the Galactic Confederation to Earth," announced President Okafor, her voice carrying across the platform, where thousands of global media outlets captured humanity's first official contact with alien life. Admiral Zorax bowed with calculated grace. "We have observed your civilization with great interest," he said, his translator converting the clicking, hissing language into smooth English. "Your species has potential, if properly guided." The demonstration began moments later. In a cordoned-off area of the platform, Confederation warriors activated their weapons. The air crackled with energy as targets, thick slabs of tungsten alloy, disintegrated into glowing particles. "Our phase plasma technology," explained Sub-Commander Frel, mandibles twitching in what humans would later learn was an expression of smug superiority. "Capable of molecular disruption at the quantum level, we would be pleased to share such advancements with our new friends." Rey stepped forward, her hand extended toward one of the destroyed targets. A holographic scanner embedded in her sleeve cuff quietly recorded data as she examined the residue. Her eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly when the Confederation's shield demonstration began. The blue-green energy field surrounding a warrior flickered for 1.3 microseconds when it repelled a high-energy plasma burst, a flaw no one else seemed to notice. "Impressive technology," she commented with practiced diplomacy. "Our defensive systems are somewhat different." She exchanged a quick glance with General Santos, their fingers briefly forming the battle signal for a vulnerable target they'd developed during the resource wars. The Confederation delegation toured Earth's facilities throughout the day, their condescension thinly veiled when shown human military technology. At the United Earth Defense Headquarters, they barely glanced at the railgun schematics on display, dismissing them as primitive curiosities. "You still use physical projectiles?" asked Zorax, scales rippling in what his species considered laughter. "Most civilizations abandoned such methods shortly after achieving atomic energy. Tradition has its place in our military doctrine," Reyes replied calmly. "We find reliability in the fundamentals." As the delegation prepared to leave through their shimmering teleportation field, Admiral Zorax presented President Okafor with a data crystal. "Technical specifications for basic shield technology. A gesture of goodwill. We look forward to your application for Confederation membership." What the aliens didn't notice was Reyes quietly pocketing a fragment of their shield emitter that had malfunctioned during the demonstration, a critical flaw she alone had observed. When the alien ship disappeared into the clouds, she immediately requested a meeting with Earth's Security Council. "They think we're primitive," she told the assembled leaders later that night, placing the alien fragment on the table. "And that misconception may be our greatest advantage." 3 months after first contact, the Confederation's sleek military assessment vessel glided into Earth orbit, its hull adorned with battle markings from 100 conquered worlds. Captain Threlvac, an aristocratic 4-armed humanoid whose translucent skin revealed pulsing organs beneath, stood on the bridge observing the blue planet with clinical detachment. "Primitive, but not without resources," he noted to his second-in-command. "Their atmosphere alone contains enough rare gases to justify the assimilation costs." The diplomatic shuttle descended toward Luna, where Earth had established its primary military research facility. Threlvac led his team of experts, their environmental suits hiding expressions of barely concealed boredom. The Human Welcoming Committee, led by General Santos, offered formal salutes that the aliens acknowledged with minimal courtesy. "We have prepared a demonstration of our defensive capabilities," Santos explained as they entered the massive lunar dome. "We believe transparency builds trust between potential allies." Threlvac's upper arms performed a gesture of polite acknowledgement, while his lower arms adjusted recording equipment. "Yes, quite. Though the Confederation assessment protocol is merely a formality. Your species will benefit greatly from our protection." The observation deck overlooked a vast lunar crater that had been converted into a testing range. Dr. Reyes, now wearing the insignia of Earth's Weapons Development Division, activated a holographic display showing a series of asteroid targets positioned 500 kilometers away. "Our primary ship-to-ship defense system," she explained, "relies on electromagnetic acceleration rather than energy dispersion." Threlvac's facial appendages twitched with amusement. "Physical projectiles. How resourceful." Reyes nodded to a technician. "Railgun Platform Alpha, execute firing Solution 1. The floor beneath them vibrated as massive capacitors discharge. From a concealed silo, a tungsten rod the size of a small bus accelerated from 0 to 15,000 kilometers per hour in under 2 seconds. The observation deck's filters automatically darkened as the asteroid target erupted into a superheated cloud of debris and plasma, the kinetic energy transfer creating a flash brighter than Earth's sun. "Target eliminated," announced an AI voice. Impressive for kinetic weapons, Threlvac conceded, his translator struggling to mask his surprise. "Though energy-based systems offer more precision." Reyes smiled. "Railgun Platform Omega. Execute firing Solution 2, selective targeting." A second discharge, this time from a more distant platform. The rod, smaller but accelerated to higher velocity, struck a cluster of 3 asteroids. Instead of complete destruction, it pierced through all 3, leaving perfectly circular holes through their centers while maintaining their overall structure. The Confederation team fell silent. "We've refined the technology considerably," Reyes explained. "The Mark VII railguns can accelerate projectiles to 0.1 C in vacuum conditions. The relativistic effects create some interesting targeting opportunities." That evening, in the diplomatic quarters provided to the alien delegation, Threlvac's composure finally broke. His skin flushed purple with embarrassment and contempt as he dictated notes to his subordinates. "These humans maintain archaic weapon systems out of cultural stubbornness," he recorded. "Their railgun technology, while marginally effective against unshielded targets, would be useless against modern Confederation defenses. Recommendation: classify Earth as a Category 3 civilization, technically capable but strategically primitive." He paused, adding a personal note, "like watching primates proud of discovering fire, when we command the stars themselves." Meanwhile, beneath Olympus Mons on Mars, Dr. Reyes entered her private laboratory. The shield fragment from First Contact floated in a containment field, surrounding a small railgun projectile suspended in test position. "Run Simulation Alpha 7, she instructed the system. The holographic display showed the projectile passing through the shield, as if it weren't there, confirming what she had suspected since the first demonstration. "Perfect," Reyes whispered with a triumphant smile. They'd forgotten the fundamentals of physics in their rush toward energy manipulation. On his ship, Threlvac sent an encrypted message to High Command. "The primitives cling to physical weapons. Conquest will be effortless." The Antarctic Research Station's perimeter alarms blared at 300 hours during the worst blizzard in a decade. Security teams struggled through howling winds and near-zero visibility, their thermal imaging systems detecting a single humanoid figure stumbling through snow drifts toward the eastern entrance. "Hold your fire," ordered Lieutenant Park as the figure collapsed just meters from the airlock. "It's not human, but it's not attacking either." The security team's medical officer rushed forward. He's injured. Some kind of neural damage. When they removed the figure's makeshift ice-crusted cloak, gasps echoed through the team. The alien bore the distinctive characteristics of Confederation physiology, but his left eye socket was charred and empty, black fluid leaking from implant ports that appeared to have been forcibly removed. "They're coming," the alien gasped through bloodied lips. No time. Admiral James Chen arrived via hypersonic transport within 4 hours, accompanied by Dr. Reyes and a specialized containment unit. By then, the medical team had stabilized the alien and moved him to a secure bunker 300 meters beneath the ice. "I am Dr. Cliff, biomechanical engineer, third-tier citizen of the Galactic Confederation," the alien explained once conscious, his voice raspy through a modified translator. "And I have committed treason to be here." Chen studied the alien carefully. "Why risk your life to reach us?" Keyleth activated a device embedded in his palm, projecting holographic images that filled the room. The gathered human officials stepped back instinctively as massive wolf-like predators materialized in the projection, bipedal creatures with evolved manipulator claws and fangs that extended beyond their lower jaws. "The Vargar Dominion," Keyleth explained, "an apex predator species from the Outer Rim. Their ships are grown rather than built, organic vessels with sensory organs and weapon ports resembling maws." The hologram shifted to show these living ships engaging Confederation vessels, tearing through energy shields that flickered and failed against physical ramming attacks. "For 3 standard cycles, they have pushed into Confederation space. Your system lies directly in their expansion path." Reyes stepped forward. "Why would you betray your people to warn us?" Keyleth removed his medical covering, revealing horrific burn scars across his torso and arms. "Because I watched the Vargar take my homeworld while the Confederation fleet held position just beyond our moon. They claimed tactical necessity. They lied." His remaining eye fixed on Chen. "The true reason I'm here, your railguns. The Confederation's shields have a deliberate vulnerability to physical projectiles, a design feature incorporated centuries ago to maintain technological control over client species." A stunned silence fell over the room. "The Confederation intends to funnel the Vargar fleet directly to your system," Keyleth continued. "Your primitive weapons make you the perfect sacrificial defense. They expect you to damage the Vargar enough for the Confederation to claim final victory, while keeping their own forces intact." General Santos slammed his fist on the conference table. "You're saying they've been planning to sacrifice us since first contact?" Keyleth's scared face twisted in what might have been regret. "The Confederation has perfected the art of strategic vassalage over millennia. New species are evaluated not just for resources, but for strategic positioning. Why help us?" Chen demanded. "What do you gain?" Keyleth's translator struggled to convey the emotion in his reply. "The Vargar took my family while the Confederation watched. Your children deserve better." That night, as Keyleth slept under medical observation, Dr. Reyes compared his data with her findings from the shield fragment. Her hands shook as she reviewed the confirmation of what she'd suspected since first contact. Across Earth's military bases and shipyards, lights burned through the night as Operation Thunderbolt, once a contingency plan, shifted to active status. 6 months of uneasy peace shattered when emergency quantum transmissions flooded Earth's newly installed deep space arrays. The Vargar Dominion had launched simultaneous attacks on 3 Confederation border worlds. The holographic war room beneath Geneva filled with grim-faced military leaders as footage from the conflict zones played across multiple screens. The images were horrific. Vargar boarding parties tearing through civilian habitats, their organic ships absorbing captured Confederation vessels into their hulls like predators digesting prey. Screams echoed through the command center before an officer mercifully muted the audio. "The Confederation Supreme Council is broadcasting emergency sessions across all frequencies," reported Communications Director Hirano, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. "They're pledging support for all allied worlds." Admiral Chen nodded to a nondescript woman at the back of the room. Colonel Martinez, head of Earth's Quantum Intelligence Division, hidden in the caverns of Cheyenne Mountain. She stepped forward, activating a secure channel on her wrist terminal. "My team has intercepted something else," she said quietly. "Confederation military vessels are transmitting Earth's precise coordinates to the Varga fleet, using a frequency they think we can't decrypt." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "Right on schedule," Dr. Rice said, her voice steady despite the tension. Just as Colette warned. The quantum communicator chimed, announcing an incoming transmission from orbit. "Confederation diplomatic vessel requesting emergency landing clearance," announced the AI system. "Ambassador Vril Zenith seeks immediate audience regarding the Varga situation." Chen exchanged glances with President Okafor, who gave a subtle nod. "Grant clearance," Chen ordered, "and activate Protocol Judas." 2 hours later, the ornate Confederation shuttle waited on the landing pad, engines humming softly as rain began to fall. Inside the glass-walled conference room overlooking the Pacific, Ambassador Vril Zenith's normally smooth carapace seemed duller than during previous meetings. "The Confederation deeply regrets the unfortunate timing of the Varga expansion," he began, his translator pitched to convey sympathy. "We've prepared evacuation protocols for Earth's leadership and cultural treasures. Our vessel can accommodate 200 of your most valuable citizens immediately." Admiral Chen remained expressionless as he activated a holographic display showing the intercepted transmissions. Confederation ships broadcasting Earth's coordinates to the Varga fleet. The ambassador's compound eyes widened briefly before his facial plates rearranged to an unreadable configuration. "There seems to be some misunderstanding," Vril Zenith started. Chen cut him off by sliding a small data crystal across the table. "This contains the coordinates for your embassy staff's shuttle. It should depart within the hour." The conference room windows polarized, revealing what had been hidden behind the Admiral. Dozens of massive railgun platforms rising from the Pacific Ocean, their barrels longer than the Confederation shuttle itself. Similar reports were streaming in from across the globe as Earth unveiled its secret defensive network. "You don't understand," the ambassador hissed, abandoning the pretense of friendship. "The Varga will glass your world." Chen's smile never reached his eyes. "Perhaps. But first, they'll have to get past what your Captain Threlvac called our quaint toys." The Varga fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kuiper Belt, a ghastly armada of 63 living ships. Sensor feeds displayed the vessels in horrifying detail, organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns, massive sensory bulbs scanning the solar system, weapon ports that resembled faint maws flexing open and closed in anticipation. In the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with practiced calm. "How many civilians still in evacuation zones?" he asked. "Bunker capacity at 97%, replied General Santos. 3 million still in transit in the Eurasian sector." Chen nodded. "We need another 18 minutes. On the primary display, the Varga fleet accelerated toward the inner system. Earth's orbital monitoring stations fell silent one by one as the armada approached Jupiter. The massive gas giant's moons lit up with warning signals as automated defense systems activated, then went dark. Across Earth, civilians huddled in subterranean shelters, watching through neural feeds as President Okafor delivered what many believed would be humanity's final address. "We stand alone," she said, her face steady despite the gravity of the moment. "But we stand united." On the far side of the moon, in the shadow of ancient lunar craters, 5,000 men and women in environmental suits performed final checks on the largest weapons humanity had ever constructed. Project ZUS, a network of superconducting railguns cooled to near absolute zero. Their barrels, extending over 12 kilometers in the lunar vacuum, contained electromagnetic acceleration rings capable of imparting energies previously only seen in particle colliders. Dr. Reyes, now wearing a general's insignia, reviewed the targeting solutions one final time as the Varga fleet reached Mars orbit. The lead vessels slowed, organic sensor arrays extending toward Earth. War Alpha to all ships came the intercepted transmission from the Vargar flagship, the translator rendering the growling language into English. Primitive defenses detected. Standard consumption pattern. Begin atmospheric insertion on my mark. Rice took a deep breath and opened the command channel. All batteries. Execute firing solution Prometheus. The lunar surface erupted with blue-white electromagnetic fury as thousands of tungsten carbide rods, each weighing 20 tons and tipped with exotic matter penetrators, accelerated to 1/10 the speed of light. The vacuum of space concealed their approach until impact. The kinetic energy released was equivalent to multiple nuclear detonations, but concentrated into hypersonic penetrating needles. The Vargar flagship's organic hull ruptured spectacularly, atmosphere and bodies venting into space as secondary explosions chained through its neural ganglia. 4 more capital ships suffered similar fates within seconds, their living hulls screaming in frequencies that caused Vargar soldiers to claw at their auditory organs in agony. Direct hits on 5 primary targets, reported the targeting officer, her voice maintaining professional detachment despite the victory. Catastrophic damage registered. For the first time in their recorded history, the Vargar battle group scattered in disarray, their retreat marked by a trail of biological debris and frozen fluids across the Martian orbit. On Earth, as confirmation of the Vargar retreat came through, celebrations erupted from bunkers and shelters. But in the Lunar Command Center, General Rice and Admiral Chen watched the tactical display in grim silence as a new hyperspace rupture began forming beyond Neptune. "The Vanguard," Chen said quietly. "The main fleet will be 3 times larger." Rice nodded. "And now, they know we can hurt them." On the Confederation capital world of Nexus Prime, the Grand Spire, a structure built from the crystallized remains of extinct species, trembled as the High Council erupted into chaos. The chamber's perfect acoustics, designed to carry even whispered threats across the circular hall, now amplified the sounds of panic. Long-range tachyon sensors had transmitted the impossible. Primitive humans not just surviving the Vargar assault, but decimating their Vanguard fleet. Security drones removed 3 lowercase counselors who suffered psychosomatic breakdowns, their bodies rejecting neural implants in response to extreme stress. Admiral Zorak stood rigid before the triumvirate, his scales dulled with shame. The highest governing body of the Confederation sat elevated on crystalline thrones, their bodies modified over centuries to represent the pinnacle of their species' evolution. "The humans," Zorax confessed, "have weapons that operate on principles we abandoned millennia ago. We miscalculated." Across the chamber, intelligence feeds showed riots breaking out on 7 Confederation worlds as news spread despite censorship efforts. The oldest triumvir, a being so ancient its physical form had been replaced by a containment field of pure energy, spoke in a voice that cracked the chamber's crystal walls. "You have broken the doctrine of ascension. You allowed primitives access to knowledge without ensuring their dependence." Meanwhile, beneath the lunar surface, Dr. Rice stood before Earth's collected leadership in a secure war room. Behind her, holographic models showed the exact frequencies and modulation patterns of Confederation shield technology. "From the moment of first contact," she explained, removing her uniform jacket to reveal burn scars covering her left shoulder and arm, "I recognized the shield harmonics." She gestured to Kleth, who activated a historical data stream. "These aren't identical to the Jakarta colony shields," Rice continued. "They are Jakarta colony shields." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "The Confederation didn't invent this technology," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "They scavenged it from human colonies that attempted early interstellar travel during the resource wars, colonies that mysteriously disappeared." President Okafor leaned forward. "You're saying they've been studying us long before official first contact. Studying, harvesting, and deliberately maintaining vulnerabilities in technologies they distribute to client species." Rise activated a secondary display showing the molecular structure of the railgun projectiles, now enhanced with elements from Kleth's data. "We've been refining our railgun technology for decades," she explained, knowing that someday we'd face an enemy who'd forgotten the fundamentals of physics in their rush toward energy weapons. The president stepped forward, face illuminated by the tactical displays. "How long have you known?" Rise looked at her steadily. "Since I was the only survivor of Jakarta. I've spent my life preparing for this moment." The AI system interrupted with a priority alert. New hyperspace rupture detected beyond Neptune, significantly larger than previous signature. On the screens above them, sensors detected the main Varg battle fleet emerging from hyperspace, 3 times larger than the Vanguard. The living ships formed into attack formations, their movements more cautious now that they knew Earth could bite back. "They know we're dangerous now," Admiral Chen said quietly. "This time, they won't underestimate us." Rise nodded grimly. "Neither should we underestimate them." The Titan Station observation deck, normally reserved for astronomers, now held the most unusual diplomatic summit in human history. War Alpha Kurzak, his massive frame requiring a specially constructed pressure suit, stood before the United Earth Council. Behind him, through the transparent aluminum viewport, floated the crippled remnant of his once mighty Vanguard, organic vessels still visibly regenerating from wounds that would have destroyed conventional ships. The War Alpha removed his helmet in a gesture of vulnerability, exposing himself to potential human pathogens. His face, a disconcerting blend of lupine and humanoid features, bore ceremonial scars that traced patterns across his silver-streaked fur. "We came to devour," he growled, his translator struggling with the complex harmonics of Varga speech. "But instead, we found equals." Dr. Reyes studied the alien predator, noting how his amber eyes tracked every movement in the room with instinctive wariness. Despite his obvious strength, Varga musculature was 3 times denser than human. There was something in his posture that suggested not just caution, but respect. "You killed 8,000 of my warriors with your first strike," Kurzak continued. "No species has inflicted such losses on the Dominion in 12 generations." The tension in the room was palpable as Kurzak activated a neural projector implanted in his skull. 3-dimensional images flooded the chamber. Varg colony worlds bombarded from orbit, Confederation peacekeepers performing what they called necessary genetic corrections on Varg populations. Most disturbing was laboratory footage of Varg cubs being neurologically programmed for aggression, their developing brains subjected to targeted stimulation that enhanced predatory instincts while suppressing higher cognitive functions. "For 17 generations," the War Alpha explained, "they have shaped us into the perfect enemy, savage enough to frighten their client species into dependence, yet controlled enough to never threaten their core worlds." Admiral Chen stepped forward. "Why should we believe you? You were sent to destroy us." "Because we share the same enemy." Kurzak's massive claws extended, then retracted in what Killith quietly identified as a gesture of restraint. "The Confederation did not expect you to survive our first wave. They certainly did not expect you to have weapons that could harm us. Now they will come for both our peoples." Dr. Kleth, his health partially restored by human medical technology, whispered urgently to General Reyes as counselors debated among themselves. "The Varga behavior patterns are different from what my research predicted. Their neural architecture appears to be evolving beyond Confederation conditioning." Hours later, as Saturn's rings reflected light across the observation deck, humanity and Varga signed the Titan Accords, a military alliance born of shared betrayal. In shipyards hidden within the Jovian moons, human engineers watched in fascination as Varga biologists demonstrated how their living ships could be genetically modified to incorporate railgun technology directly into their cellular structure. The ship's biological systems could provide regenerative cooling for the electromagnetic coils, solving one of the most persistent problems in railgun design. The Varga, in turn, marveled at humanity's advancements in material science, alloys and composites that their biological technology could never produce. "Your ships and our guns," a human engineer said to her Varg counterpart, watching as a prototype biomechanical railgun successfully grafted into living ship tissue. The Varg bared his fangs in what humans were learning to recognize as a smile. "Together, we create something neither of our kinds imagined alone." The neutral ground station hung in space at the precise gravitational balance point between three stars, a marvel of engineering chosen deliberately for the most significant diplomatic gathering in a millennium. 1 year after the Battle of Mars, the galaxy's power structure had been irrevocably altered. On the station's central promenade, representatives from 27 formerly subjugated species mingled anxiously, their evolutionary differences stark but united by newfound independence. The Confederation delegation arrived first, their ceremonial armor unable to hide their diminished stature. Admiral Zorax, now bearing punishment scars that had dulled his once brilliant scales, led a faction that had barely maintained control after revolutions rocked a dozen core worlds. The human Varg delegation arrived next, Admiral Chen and War Alpha Kurzak entering side by side, followed by Dr. Reyes and a team of hybrid specialists whose uniforms blended both species' aesthetics. Behind them, through the station's massive observation windows, loomed the most visible symbol of their alliance, the HSS Prometheus, a living ship grown around a massive central railgun that ran the entire 2-kilometer length of its spine. The ship's organic components pulsed with bioluminescence while its human-engineered weapon systems tracked the Confederation vessels with ostentatious precision. The summit began with testimony from newly liberated worlds, species revealing centuries of Confederation manipulation, genetic tampering, and manufactured conflicts designed to maintain dependency. When Zorax finally spoke, his once arrogant voice was subdued. The doctrine of ascension was meant to guide species toward advancement, not enslave them. We lost our way. As the delegates signed the Sol Accords, establishing sovereign rights for all sentient species and prohibiting technological suppression, a young Confederation diplomat approached Dr. Reyes at the reception. "I still don't understand," he admitted, mandibles clicking nervously. "Why cling to projectile weapons when energy technology is so much more elegant?" Reyes took a sip from her glass, her eyes tracking to a memorial wall where the names of both human and Varg casualties were projected. "The first human to kill another used a rock," she said quietly. "We've never forgotten that lesson. That destruction comes from impact, from force transferred through matter. Your people became so enamored with the elegance of energy manipulation that you forgot the fundamental physics that underlies it all." She gestured toward Earth, visible as a blue dot through the station's eastern viewport. "Humans never stop being human. We carry our past with us, even as we reach for the stars. Your people thought that made us primitive." Her smile carried the weight of vindication. "We thought it made us strong." As the summit concluded, the newly formed Galactic Congress approved its first joint scientific mission, a human Varg expedition to explore beyond the galactic rim. The HSS Prometheus led the expedition fleet into the unknown, its hybrid design a testament to the unexpected power of looking backward to move forward, a reminder that sometimes the oldest solutions, refined by ingenuity, are the most effective ones.